Hi everyone, welcome to Yoga with Heini. I'm Heini, and in this week's practice we are focusing on opening the front line of the body. So front of the thighs, hip flexors, the chest. If you've been sitting a lot or kind of hunching forward in some other ways, this will be a nice practice for opening the front, also strengthening the back line to then support that opening on the front. Let's get started. We don't need any props necessarily for this week's practice. If you have tender knees and you like cushioning the knees, then I suggest having a blanket or a soft towel that you can put under your knees, because we are going to spend some time on the knees. To get started, we're going to come lie down on the back. So bring yourself to lie down in some form of easy resting pose. You could have the knees bent, or you could extend your legs for a moment here. We'll take a few breaths. We'll do our little check-in before we start moving more. And here I suggest bringing one hand onto the chest, the other hand down onto the belly. And give yourself a few slightly deeper breaths. First, allow the breaths to move into the chest. Feel the chest rising up and falling down as you breathe in and out. Some nice full chest breaths in and out. And then a couple of breaths down to the belly. Again, feeling the belly bulging out, sinking back in as you breathe in and out. Let's do a couple more breaths here. Let the chest, the ribs, the belly all move as you breathe in and out. It might be like a wave coming in, sliding back out. Maybe the breath moves first into the chest, then down towards the belly. Take another breath in and out. Maybe let your hands come down on the mat. And then slowly, with your next few breaths, bring your feet down on the mat so that you bend your knees, and then bend your elbows so you lift your feet, not your feet, your hands off the mat up into the air. We still need our feet on the mat. So fingers pointing up and feet start to press down to the mat. We're going to exhale, press the feet down and lift the pelvis up, lift the back off the mat into a gentle bridge, opening the front line. You can press down through the upper arms, and then exhale, release back down. When the pelvis comes down, a couple of times circle your wrist joints. Let the pelvis, the back, rest on the mat. And then again, fingertips pointing up to the ceiling. Press down through the feet. Allow pelvis, the back, to come slightly off the mat. Maybe lifting the chest bone slightly higher up. Again, opening through the front. Upper arms can press to the mat. And exhale, slowly release back down. Again, as the pelvis comes down, couple of circles with the wrists, maybe going the other way. Just preparing the wrists. We're going to have a few poses where the weight goes down through the hands and arms, so prepare the wrists as well. And then we'll do one more of those bridge poses. Slowly with your exhalation, press down through the feet, lift the pelvis, lift the back off the mat. Let the chest come a bit higher up. Breathe in and out. And then again with your next exhalation, release the back, release the pelvis down. And then release the arms down as well. We'll do a few windshield wipers here. Now swinging the knees, swinging the legs from side to side. If you want, you can bring your arms into a cactus shape. Allow a bit more opening in the chest. And from these swings, lean onto one side, either left or the right side. And from there, bring yourself up into a seat. And as you come up into a seat, bring your right shin in front of you. I'll turn a bit more at an angle so you can also see the back leg. So now the back leg, the left leg is bent kind of behind us or next to us. Leaning a bit more weight onto the right buttock, and then step your right hand somewhere out to the right side so you can lean onto the right hand. We'll come into a lifted deer from here. So now press down through the right hand. Inhale and lift your pelvis up, opening through the front of the left thigh, left hip, and you can start to open the chest, reaching that left arm up and out, away from the left thigh. Take another breath in here. And then as you exhale, release the pelvis back down. Let the left arm come down. Same again. As you inhale, press down through the right hand and arm. Lift the pelvis up, actively pressing down through both shins. And let the chest open. Inhale once more up here. And exhale, release again down. Let's do once more with your own inhalation. Press down through the shins, through the knees. Open the front line from your left knee all the way up to the chest, to that left arm. And then next exhalation, slowly release back down. And you can keep your legs about as they are and step hands in front of you. We'll come into a forward bending deer. If needed, you might extend the left leg a bit more behind you. Inhale. And as you exhale, lean down and forward. So now coming into a counter pose for that lifted deer, coming into a forward bend, leaning forward over that right shin, or you might lean more over the right knee. What feels good in the hips. Allow your head to come down, allowing the back of the neck to lengthen. Take another breath in and out. You can breathe to that back line, back side of the body. And then as you inhale, slowly lift yourself back up. And then bring your both legs in front. And we'll come into a little balancing pose here. The balancing happy baby, just to focus our minds. So now lean to the back of the pelvis and let your feet come slightly off the mat. And this could be a good balancing pose. So trying to not kind of roll on to the back. If you want, you could open your hips and reach right hand to right foot, left hand to left foot. And the last option would be to start to open the legs a bit more into that happy baby pose. You decide how bent or how straight the legs are here. It's really about the balance, trying to balance on the back of the pelvis. And keep your chest open, breathe into that chest space. A subtle lifting in through the lower belly, keeping the core engaged. Take another breath in and out. And then slowly exhale, release the feet down. You can close the hips, bring the feet to the mat. And then we'll come into those deer poses on the other side. So now bring your left shin in front of you and bend the right leg either next to you or slightly behind you. And then lean onto your left hand. So it could be next to you or even slightly behind you. From here, as you inhale, lift the pelvis up. So now we're looking for that opening in the front of the right thigh, right hip, coming all the way into the chest. You could reach the right arm away from that right leg. And exhale, slowly release the pelvis back down. You can release the right arm down. Same again. Inhale, lifting the pelvis up and pressing down through that left arm as well, but actively press down through the shins. So the back side of the legs is active. And exhaling down. You can let your neck, your head move. Once more, inhale, lifting up. And here you might look up to the ceiling. You might also turn your gaze down to the mat if that releases the neck more. And exhale, release the pelvis down. Bring your hands, your arms down. And we'll come into that forward bend. So now, if needed, you can adjust the legs for your forward bend. We're going to go over that left shin. Step hands in front of you. Inhale. And exhale, round the back. Maybe come down onto elbows, forearms. That would give a little break for the hands and wrists. And then lean the head down. Allow the neck to release. And breathe a couple more times in and out. Again, you could send the breaths towards the back side of the body. And then with your next inhalation, lift yourself back up onto the hands, open the chest, and then bring a bit more weight onto the hands. So you could now slide that left leg back and come onto all fours, onto hands and knees. From here, we're going to lift into downward facing dog. So now spread your palms, your hands onto the mat, tuck the toes under, and then lift the pelvis up. So now the opening is more on the back side of the legs. You could pedal the feet here a bit. And gently reach the pelvis away from the hands. Let the head drop down. Take a couple of breaths in and out. So opening the backs of the legs, knees could be bent. And finding that engagement through the pelvis, through the core to reach the pelvis up and back. Take another breath in and out here. And then as you exhale, release the knees back down. You can release the feet and come down into child's pose. Let your head lean down to the mat or bring hands under the head. And you could have your legs closer together or they could be wider apart, a wide-legged child's pose. Take a couple of breaths in and out. Just allowing the breath to calm down after that downward dog. And then as you inhale, lift your back up and come sitting on the shins. You might can adjust angle in the hips and the knees. We're going to now step hands behind the pelvis. So check that you have room behind you so you can lean onto the hands, or maybe just lean onto fingertips, but shifting the weight back and starting to open again through the front of the thighs. Inhale, open the chest, lifting the chest bone tiny bit higher up, and you could stay here, a baby camel pose, or exhale, lift the pelvis up again. So now it's a more symmetrical pose, opening both sides of the thighs, the hip flexor line, and opening the chest. You could even let your head fall back if that feels good in the neck, or maybe draw the chin closer to chest and breathe into the chest space. Take another breath in and out, and then slowly exhale, release the pelvis down. Come into a more upright seat, release the hands and circle the wrist joints a few times. Going one way and then the other. And then from here, we'll come into a kneeling lunge pose. So first, come standing on your knees. And here you could bring something soft, something cushiony under the left knee if needed. And then step your right foot in front of you. So as we come into this lunge, we're not going to go down and forward, but we're going to stay really in this kneeling pose, and more think about slightly tucking the tailbone under. And as you tuck your tailbone under, you might already there start to feel some opening in the front of that left thigh. So if you want, you can stay here, hands on that right leg, and just focus on that slight pelvic movement, tucking the tail under. Or if you want to add some head movement, bring your hands behind the head, behind the neck, and keep that tailbone tucked under. Inhale, and then as you exhale, bring your chin to your chest. So just kind of nodding the head down. Don't push with the hands. Just let the hands rest behind the neck, behind the head, and that might intensify the feeling, that opening on the front of that left thigh. Next inhalation, bring the neck and the head back up. You can let your chest open a bit. And same again. Exhale, you could nod your head down, bring your chin towards the chest. Elbows might close in a bit. Breathe there. And then next inhalation, again lifting the neck, the head back up. Let's do one more round. Exhale, if you want, round the neck, knock the head down, and keep the tailbone tucked under. And then inhale, lift the neck, the head back up. Release the hands and arms. And then you can let the pelvis come further down and forward. So you can bring your hands onto the mat and step your both knees back next to each other. And here on all fours, take a moment to move the hips a bit. You could circle the pelvis or just rock the pelvis a bit from side to side, and notice how that left hip, left thigh feel before we do it to the other side. Let's do another circle, another breath, moving the pelvis. And then we'll come on to the second side. So again, come standing on the knees, and here, if you want some padding, cushioning under the right knee, move your blanket or pillow there under the right knee, and then step your left foot forward. And again, staying quite high up in a kneeling pose. First, tuck the tailbone under. So think about letting the pelvis kind of tilt back. And we're trying to keep the pelvis there. Again, this could be plenty enough. You can just let the hands rest on the left thigh. You don't need to knot the head. You don't need to add that movement. But if you want, keep the tailbone tucked under and then bring your hands behind the head, behind the neck. Inhale there, maybe opening the chest a bit. And then exhale. Bring your chin towards the chest, nodding the head down. So a slight rounding in the neck, in the upper back. And again, that might make the sensation in the front of the right thigh a bit more intense. With the next breath in, release the head back up. Open the chest a bit. Same again. Exhale. You can bring chin towards the chest. And be mindful, don't push the head down. Don't go too far. Just get a gentle sensation, nothing too intense. And again, inhale, open the chest. I can feel quite big stretch in the front of the right thigh. So let's do once more, that third round. Maybe not going all the way down, just where you feel it's manageable. And inhaling up. We still keep the tailbone tucked under, the pelvis still in that same place. And then release the hands down. You can lean the pelvis down so you can bring your hands to the mat. And again, step your both knees back. And a moment of moving the pelvis. Or circling, just any easy movement that feels releasing after that opening for the quads. You can also check your neck, your shoulders are not tense. And then let's come back into downward facing dog. So spread your hands on the mat, tuck the toes under, and again lift the pelvis up. Just a bit of counter opening on the back side. You could move the feet a bit. Let the backs of the legs open. You can shake the head. And then we're going to bring the knees once more down to the mat. And from here, we're going to step the right foot forward again, but this time we'll let the pelvis come down and forward a bit more. And then you could stay here if this feels like a good opening in the front of that left thigh. If you want, you could leave your left hand on the mat and then reach the right arm behind you, so adding a bit of twist, and then bend the left knee, reach right hand to the foot, or maybe just the toes, and giving once more opening for the front of the left leg. Couple of breaths in and out. You could use a hand to bring the foot a bit closer in. Good, and then slowly release your left shin and foot back down to the mat. Tuck the left foot toes under. Step into downward dog, changing via downward dog. And from there, step the left foot to the hands. And then bring your right knee to the mat. And on this side, you could leave the right hand to the mat. Maybe even stay here. Again, this is an option, so you don't have to add the twist. But if you want, reach your left arm behind you. And then we could try to bend that right knee, reach the left hand to the right foot. And breathe in and out. It might be quite intense opening in the front of that right leg. Let's take one more breath in and out. Breathe all the way down to that right leg. And then release. Slowly let go of that right foot. And from here, we're going to step the left knee back to the right knee, and then we're gonna come all the way down onto the belly. So release the pelvis, the belly, the chest down to the mat. And bring arms down next to the sides. Give yourself a few breaths here. Just resting, and feel that whole front side resting on the mat, on the floor. And then we'll come and strengthen that back line a bit. So a bit more kind of active back bends. First, bring your hip to the center and just gently reach your feet, your legs away from the head. And here I have my palms turned up to the ceiling and kind of shoulders rotated down to the mat. So the front side of my chest, my shoulders is quite closed. And then we're going to inhale to the chest and start to rotate the arms. Now turning palms down to the mat, lifting the front of the shoulders and chest away from the mat. So opening the chest away from the floor, and you can continue rotating the arms. You might even turn your palms out to the sides of the mat. Next exhalation, we slowly come back down, and again, rotating the palms back up to the ceiling. Allow the shoulders to rotate in, down towards the mat. Let's do the same again. Reach feet away from the head, and as you inhale, send the breath to the chest. Start to lift the front of the shoulders, the chest away from the mat. Rotating palms either down to the mat, or you can even rotate the palms out to the sides, but really feel upper back engaging, space between the shoulder blades engaging. You could keep looking down to the mat if that's better for the neck. And exhale again, slowly release down, let the shoulders, the arms rotate. Bring your head all the way down. Let's do one more round, reaching the feet away from the head. Inhale to the chest, start to lift the chest off the mat. Let the shoulders rotate. So you're lifting the front of the shoulders off the mat. Try not to crunch the neck. So if looking forward doesn't feel good in the neck, keep looking down to the mat. Trying to keep the legs still on the mat. Take another breath in towards the chest, and then exhale, release down again. Let the chest, the shoulders rotate in. You could turn one cheek on the mat and just take a little rest here. You could breathe all the way into the lower back a couple of times, or maybe rock the pelvis a bit from side to side. And then from lying down on the belly, slowly roll down onto your back. So slowly find an easy way to lie down on the back. To the same or similar place where we started from in the beginning. And then bend your knees. Again, we're going to come into another bridge pose. So find the feet about hip width apart, arms down next to the sides. Or if you want, you could bring arms into a cactus shape for this last bridge pose. First inhale down on the mat, and then exhale, press down through the feet and feel the legs, the backs of the legs engaging as you lift the pelvis off the mat. Inner thighs engage, they balance the action of the buttocks. And then let the chest bone lift up as well. When you are up in your bridge, if you want, you could slide your arms under your back and bring hands together, interlock fingers, possibly walk shoulder blades closer together. That might give one more nice opening across the chest, shoulders. Breathing in and out. And then slowly exhale, release down. Release the arms, release the back, bring the pelvis down. Do a couple of windshield wipers, just allowing the hips, the pelvis to move a bit from side to side. And then I suggest a happy baby pose here. Not a balancing one, so now just lying down, happy baby. So when we're not balancing, we're just going to stay on our back and hug the knees in. And this could be a nice place to stay. Feel free to stay here. Or like we did in the beginning, balancing on the pelvis, you could open the hips a bit, turn the knees more out to the sides, and then reach hands to the feet. And maybe even start to extend the legs a bit. So you choose where your happy baby is happy today, how much or how little you want to extend the legs. And now that we're not balancing, we could rock a bit from side to side. You could bend and straighten the legs. And giving a counter opening for the back side after those strengthening movements. Take another breath in and out in your happy baby or hugging the knees. And then slowly, with your next few breaths, release the legs, release the feet down. You can bring your feet all the way down to the mat. And then let your both knees fall down to the right side of the mat into a reclining twist, or it could even be a reclining deer pose. So if you like, look for one more opening through the front of the left leg here, and keep the legs a bit wider apart. But if you want a more of a twist in the spine, then you bring your both legs kind of on top of each other, so they're more on the side of the mat. You decide which variation would feel good for you now. So that you could just keep your chest open up to the ceiling. You could even open the arms further out to the sides. And breathe a couple more times. Breathe to the chest. Breathe down to the belly. Let the exhalation soften any tension there might be. And then slowly, slowly bring your legs back up to the center. And then let your knees, your legs come down to the left side of the mat. And same option here. You could do more of a deer pose. Keep the legs really quite wide apart, and that might give you opening once more through the front of that right thigh, hip. And if that feels good, you can stay there. But equally, you have the option of bringing legs on top of each other, both legs on the side of the mat. And that probably gives a bit more of a twist in the spine. And here as well, you can adjust the arms. They might be in a different place on the second side. How could we still keep the chest open without hurting in the shoulders, without hurting in the arms? Take a couple more breaths in and out. Breathing to the chest, breathing down to the belly. And Then slowly bring yourself back to the center. Bring your back onto the mat. And you can either keep the knees bent or you might extend the legs. A few breaths here, slowly ending, closing the practice. And if you want, you could have one hand on the belly, you could have the other hand on the chest. And let a few breaths open and release the whole front line from your chest down to the thighs. Maybe a few exhalations through the mouth, like a sigh. Let all the tension melt away. Just let yourself feel all that space that you have on the front side of your body. And if you want to stay longer in this resting pose, you are very welcome to extend your Shavasana pose, extend your resting pose. Or if you feel that now it would be a good time to close the practice, and if you'd like to end in a seat today, slowly roll down onto one side, the left or the right side, which one feels easier for you now. And then bring yourself up into a seat. If closing the practice in a seat is to your liking today, you could bring your palms together in front of the chest. Feel the left and the right side of the body meeting in the middle. And as always, at the end of the practice, thank yourself. Most importantly, thank yourself for coming onto the mat into your practice today. And I would like to thank all of you for joining in. Namaste. Good. Hope you can feel a bit more space on the front line now. If you like the practice, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. And also, if you know someone who you think might like this practice, I would really appreciate you sharing it with them. Maybe it's your friends, your family. But sharing helps these videos, helps the channel. And as always, I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye.